The Panasonic G7, one of my favorite cameras that I've ever owned, it makes for a perfect YouTube camera, and in this video I will explain why. Now before we get into this video, just know that all the links to everything I mentioned will be in the description below, so check those links out. So the Panasonic G7 is a mirrorless micro four thirds camera that shoots 4K video. It's the little brother to the GH4, which I bought about 2.5 years ago, and I've been using as my main camera ever since, and I've owned the G7 for about 1.5 years right now. The G7 can do about 90% of what the GH4 can do, but at less than half the cost. So why is the G7 the perfect YouTube camera? Well, first of all, the G7 is a mirrorless camera. So mirrorless cameras are traditionally lightweight, so they're lighter and more compact than traditional DSLRs that have mirrors inside them. So if you're using your camera to vlog, for instance, you don't want your forearm cramping up all day, just holding the camera out in front of you. So that is an advantage that the G7 has over traditional DSLRs. Another advantage that mirrorless cameras have over a DSLR are the focus sensors, which usually makes mirrorless cameras better for video. DSLRs cannot use phase detection with the mirror up while recording video, so they have to use the contrast detection focus method, which is slower. Now, I will point out that I'm recording myself in this video with the G7, so you will get an idea of the quality that the G7 has to offer. Also, I have continuous autofocus turned on, check to see how the autofocus is doing throughout this video. The G7 comes with a 16 megapixel micro four thirds sensor that can record in 4K UHD. Now you may be wondering why you would need to record in 4K for YouTube videos, especially when most people are still viewing 1080p videos on 1080p screens. Most people don't have 4K monitors yet. Well, the answer is simple. When you record in 4K, you're getting 4 times the resolution of 1080p. And when you record in 4K and you put it on a 1080p timeline with your video editing software, for example, you're going to get more sharpness, more detail in the shot when you export at 1080p with that 4K original footage. Another advantage of shooting in 4K and outputting in 1080p is that you're essentially getting 2 different shots when you do that, because when you shoot in 4K, you got this 4K image and you can punch into the 1080p area, and it makes it look like you have 2 different lenses or 2 different cameras set up at 2 different angles or depths without losing any quality when you output in full HD 1080p. Now, not only does this record 4K, but it can record full 1080p HD in 60 frames per second. So not very many traditional DSLRs that are in the same price range as this do that. They only go up to 30 frames per second in full HD. So the advantage of being able to shoot 60 frames per second in full HD is that you can either shoot in 60 frames per second for the whole video and export in 60 frames per second, and you can have a 60 FPS video, or you can shoot in 60 FPS and then slow it down to a 24 frames per second timeline and have this super slow motion, which looks really cool if you're going for that type of feel and look. So if you want the ability to do that, recording in full HD 60 frames per second is awesome. Now, you may have noticed me mentioning that this is a micro four thirds camera. What is micro four thirds? Well, basically the sensor in this camera is smaller than a full frame sensor that is in higher quality, more expensive cameras. The main takeaway for YouTubers is to know that micro four thirds has a crop factor. So if you buy a micro four thirds camera and you're getting micro four thirds lenses for it, the 25mm micro four thirds lens is equivalent to a 50mm on a full frame camera. So since it's a smaller sensor, does that make micro four thirds bad? No, absolutely not. You can still get great quality video and great quality photos with a micro four thirds sensor. Full frame sensors have better low light performance, but as a YouTuber, 99% of the time, you're gonna have control over the lighting. Just like with any other camera, it all depends on the lenses. Speaking of lenses, the micro four thirds lens selection that I've encountered so far has been awesome. I've gotten a lot of the Panasonic lenses. For example, the Panasonic 12-35mm Lumix lens is fantastic lens for the G7 and the GH4. It's probably the first lens that I recommend for anybody who gets a G7. It's a very versatile lens. It's a zoom lens, so you can achieve different looks, different framing. It has OIS. It's very lightweight. It's compact. It makes for a lightweight system. It's definitely a must-have lens for G7 owners. As far as prime lenses go, the non-zoom lenses, the best option in my opinion for new G7 owners is the Lumix 25mm. Super cheap, it's fast, it's sharp, it's high quality, and it's lightweight. It's super lightweight and small. It's perfect for low light conditions and if you're wanting to get that blurry background, that milky, creamy bokeh that everybody wants. So not only can you use micro four thirds native lenses on the G7, but with an adapter called a speed booster, you can use lenses that were made for Canon DSLRs or Nikon DSLRs. For example, the Sigma 1835mm lens is actually made for Canon APS-C DSLRs, but with the speed booster, it can be used on the G7, and it's one of the most popular lenses among G7 users. Now, the speed booster also gives it a faster f-stop, so you can really max out the aperture and get that creamy, milky bokeh that we just talked about. And the speed booster does come with a high price tag, but it's worth it in my opinion if you plan on sticking with a micro four thirds camera for the foreseeable future. Now, when it comes to the quality and reliability of the G7, so far in my 1 year plus use of it, I've had no problems whatsoever. Zero problems with overheating, no problems with writing to the SD card or writing 4K to the SD card. Speaking of SD cards, if you get the G7, make sure you get these specific memory cards that I have right here. These are super cheap on Amazon and they're reliable, never had a problem with them. But the G7 is very easy to learn. It's very customizable. The menus and controls, you can do pretty much set them up however you want them depending on your workflow. Now, one of my favorite things about the G7 is the fully articulating touchscreen EVF. So the flip out screen on the G7, it is a touchscreen, so that works perfectly alongside autofocus, so you can tap on the screen and it'll focus on whatever you tap on, and it's super easy to use the controls on the touchscreen as well when you're recording. It makes it easy to do if it's facing you, and that, again, that's another advantage. When you are a YouTuber, you're probably recording videos of yourself, so it's important to see yourself and kind of see how the framing is and if you're in focus or not. So I really think that is one of my priorities for a camera. If I'm looking for it, it's got to have a fully articulating screen that flips around to where I can see myself if I'm recording myself. So that is a huge advantage that the G7 has. Now, one of my other favorite features on the G7, and that not many people think about, is that it has built-in Wi-Fi, and Panasonic offers a free app for your smartphone that you can download and use it to connect to your G7 when you're on the same Wi-Fi network. So you can control your G7 from your phone while you're recording, so you can see yourself on the app when you're just about to record. If you're far away, you can actually tap on your face on your phone and it will focus onto you. So you're basically using the touch, the focus in the touch screen just like you would on the G7 screen itself, but you're using it on your smartphone and it works just the same way. So you have access to all the controls on the screen via the touchscreen on your phone with the app. It's super awesome. It's really convenient. I actually use it a lot more than I thought I would. And of course, the G7 has a built-in microphone input jack along with the hot shoe mount on top, so you can put on your favorite external microphone and get the good audio quality that you really need, because audio is just as important as video. When it comes to the best bang for your buck, the G7 is at the top of the line. It's hard to find something cheaper than the G7 that offers everything that the G7 has to offer. So you can get a brand new G7 body on eBay for less than $500, or you can get the G7 body plus the kit lens on Amazon for right around $700 right now. And that kit lens is actually pretty decent if you have enough lighting. The Panasonic G7 is just an awesome camera. I love it. I'm glad I have it. For the quality and features that you get, you just can't beat for how low cost it is compared to similarly priced cameras. It's definitely the best in its price range, especially for video and for YouTubers. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of the Panasonic G7. If you like it, if you don't like it, if you're gonna get it, if you're not gonna get it. I'd love to hear back from you down there in the comments below. I'll be checking out those comments and replying back to as many as I can. Make sure you check out the website, channelempire.com. Sign up to join the email squad. I'll email you some things, from time to time. So check that out. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you in the next video. Bye.